So for this video, we're going to look at the basics of Photoshop and getting ourselves set up. So I've just opened my program. Mine might look a bit different because I have a whole bunch of other things that I've already done on this program. So starting Photoshop, you can open something or make a new file. To make a new file, we just click this, and we have a few different options. Again, you might not have the same options as me because these are ones I regularly use. If you come up to the top here, they give you a few presets. So if we're doing print, additional presets, we have A3 here, and you can create that. Okay, now I've got it set up. The next thing that you might need to set up with your Photoshop is the fact that some of your tools around here, it might not look exactly the same as mine. So if you're ever missing anything, you just go up to Window and you can see here that these are selected and highlighted. I think something good to start with is the layers to make sure you have them because we're going to be working on multiple different layers. I have mine. See, I've just removed it. If I go back here, I can have layers and they'll appear again. This is where I prefer to keep them. They might appear like this in the middle, but then it gives you the option to put them here on the side so you can have a little tab, or you can move it into another place wherever it suits you better. Actually, I want my layers at the bottom. There we go. So when I click them, I have a better view. This means that when we are adding different objects and layering them, that we can organize which way they go and organize how they're formatted on top of each other. If you're missing any of the other tools, you can go into Workplace. So we're set up for photography. If you're wanting any other ones, you can play around with these and see what actions you receive. History is a good one to have as well if you want to go backwards and correct any mistakes you've made or anything that you want to undo. We'll go through some basic tools as well. So if we need the navigator, then we can use that too. How we're going to start is to open our image. So a quick and easy way is just to click your image and drag it in there. That's one way to do it. Or you can go to File when we don't have this image selected. We can go to File, Open, and then you can browse and find whatever images you want. If you want on your computer, then we look from our computer, like this. Okay, so the first thing I have here is my fruit shapes that I've scanned in. We can look at the layers here and we can see that there's the background that I've just removed, and there's also my image that I've put on. We can't see the white here, but it's still there. And I want to select this object out from that white. So if we go here to the selection tool, this is a new one that uses AI that helps you select. There's a couple of different ones, wand tool, quick selection. We're going to look at object selection. It should be quite good picking and selecting your objects. So as an example, I'll select just this one if I want this one. And I'm going to zoom in just to show you that maybe, so you can use your trackpad or press Control plus or minus on your keyboard to come in closer or further away. You might not like this cut, you might need to change it a bit. So if we go here to this little icon here, the quick mask tool, we can see the area that's masked red is the area that is not selected. So I'm going to zoom in. I am going to use the eraser tool here. Sometimes it might be hidden under something else. So if we have this one here, we won't be able to see it. So click and open that way. So if I want to make my brush bigger, I can play with the settings up here and change the size, or you can use the shortcut on your keyboard. You can see the keystrokes at the bottom that I'm using. So make it a bit bigger, and I can just go through and click and drag to erase that selection tool. If we go back to the quick mask and click it, we can see that I've corrected that error there. I'll zoom back out, and I want to make a copy of this one on a new layer. With this one selected, I'll press Command C or Control C if you're on a PC, and then Control V. We can see here that a new layer has been created. So I can double click on the word and write orange. This will help you later on when you have multiple different layers and you're trying to work with the different fruits. Now if we subtract everything in the background as well, we can see that this fruit is floating in space like that. If I want to remove, let's just say this white, I don't actually want to, but if I do, then I can go play with the other selection tools again. If I go back to this first one, it selects the whole object because it's understanding it's a whole object. So maybe I will use the magic wand tool. This one selects within a tolerance range, so 5 is quite a low tolerance. It only selects the white. If I want to increase that, so maybe say maybe 20 to increase the tolerance, it'll select more areas. If I want to select multiple places, I just hold shift and select to select multiple places. I'll just do this quickly. Again, you can go back into the quick mask tool and erase some of these red areas, or you can use the brush tool, which is B shortcut on your keyboard, to paint in some areas. Again, you can play with the hardness here, making a hard brush and painting that in. If I don't like something I've just done or I want to undo, you can go to the history and select a later move that you made, or Command or Control Z, and we can just see it undo that. So once I've selected it, if I want to delete, you can see that it deletes those areas. So we can completely remove our fruit. Okay, let's just say I have this image and maybe it's scanned badly. Like I want to complete this orange. I'm not too happy that it's been altered. So I'm going to remove that copy that I made of that layer, and I'm going to make sure that I'm selected on this one. If you use the crop tool, this one becomes a bit of an issue because you actually have to crop into the image to then expand it. So we'll do that first. Crop it a little bit. Press done. So with this one, I'm going to use the crop tool again. It's surrounded the page and I want to extend it here to where I want more field to be. You can just generate expand. Sometimes it'll ask you, so we can say complete orange. And generate. And it might be a bit slow depending on how fast your computer is, but it uses AI to fill the rest of this image that might be missing. Okay, sometimes it is going to be very strange, it's not going to work. And that's sometimes what happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that last move for the crop, and then maybe I'm going to try without a prompt. We'll see maybe if that'll fix it as well. Because it's using AI, it doesn't always understand, it might not be a very good copy. There we go, okay. So it's understood better this time. This has worked perfectly. I'm completely happy with that. If I go back to my layers, we can see it's got a masking tool here that's happened because of that orange. What I would do if you're happy with this and you want to keep it, I would select that first one and then hold down shift and select the one under it. So they're both selected. Right click and I would merge layers. So it just says one selected. It just removes that masking and it makes sure it behaves the way we want it to behave. Okay, for this one I have our coloured paper. Just add it in there. So with our layers as well, we can see the background and we can see the one we're working on. Let's just say I want to create some copies of fruit or something like that. So I'm going to make a new layer just on our layers panel with the plus. And I am going to look at the different selection tool. So you can use the selection brush tool. The polygon tool will click, 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 click. So it can make and close the circle, make like very straight lines. You can hold and click and use the lasso tool. So again, make sort of more curved shapes you can lasso with, and it's more freehand. You can do the magic lasso. So if you've got a shape, I've just clicked and I'm just dragging it along and it's sort of following that shape automatically. Let me close it off. There we go, that's another way to select. If you click and drag, there is the brush tool, the sort of blob tool. So what we can do is sort of paint and make these blobs like this of any shape we want. Just going to go back and I am going to make sort of an apple shaped one. Excuse my rough shape. Okay, there we go. With this one, I am then going to go back to the arrow tool. We can see it's deselected that. So I'm still on this new layer I've made. I'm going to select my paper. And what it is, this is the selection field that's in this place, okay? And it's on top of this one. So if I press Control C or Command C, and then I press Control V, if I go here to this layer and I remove that bottom, it's made a copy of my paper in that shape. So now, with this new one, I'm going to name it Apple. And with this new shape, I can move it around. You can press Command T to resize it. Click on the corner so it keeps its shape. If you click it from here, it might not keep its shape as well. Or you can hold down Shift if you want to adjust the dimensions. If you have here the corner and you can see the little curved arrow back and forth, you can also rotate it. In this Control T, you can also flip it. You can see the controls here, then we can flip them around, flip them upside down. Okay, up to you. So with this, we can make a whole bunch of different textured papers to go with, to go from our shapes. We can also use this textured background that we've made with watercolor as a background for our text, etc. It opens up a whole bunch of possibilities. The other thing you might also have is the layering of your pieces. So if you want this leaf here to go on top of the apple, then where you have them layered, it's the same thing. Think of like a stack of papers. So for this one, I'll just label it leaf. We want to make sure that it's on top of the apple. So if we click and drag, it adds it on top of it there. The other thing we might do is that I'm not particularly happy with this blue, maybe a particular color, it's not quite what I wanted. So if I make sure I'm selected on that layer and I go to Image Adjustments, I can go into curves and I can play with the different settings on this color. So if I want to make it brighter or darker or add more texture or anything like that, I can do it as well. If I go to Image Adjustment, I can also play with the color balance. So again, if I want it to look more green, I can play with the color levels and make it look more green. Press OK if you're happy with it. Have a bit of a play around. Really looking forward to see what you create. Happy making!